Joaquin Numanza Buckley.
What up, y'all? It's your boy Joaquin Numanza Buckley. Welcome back to another episode of Buck What You Heard. Man, if you're new to my channel, make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button and hit that bell for notifications whenever we lock back in. UFC 317 was something wild, was something amazing. You already know, man, we went out to Chicago. We did a meet and greet there at DraftKings, and I'm talking about everybody had a good time, but everybody's jaws was dropped as soon as we seen Charles Oliveira laying on that canvas. So with that being said, man, I really want to just say, like, is Ilia Topuria the new superstar in the UFC? You know, for the longest time, man, people been saying, like, you know, this has been the worst era for the UFC when it comes into, you know, the star power, right? You know, we haven't seen people like, you know, Brock Lesnar or like a Ronda Rousey or your main guy, Conor McGregor. So with that being said, you know, we've been lacking in star power. But I truly believe, man, Ilia Topuria, bruh, he up there now, right? He has put himself in position to be the biggest name in the game, right? And kind of be able to surpass, right, the other stars that have came through the business. Because with Ilia Topuria, man, and the route that he's been on, I mean, I'm talking about this has been a historic type of run that we might not ever see again. Like, we are so, you know, great to be able to be in a position where we get to watch this in live time. You know, a lot of people haven't been able to watch, you know, when John Jones won that title back when he was 23 years old. A lot of people wasn't able to, you know, watch that fight when Conor McGregor knocked out Jose Aldo, right? You know, so if that's the case now, you know, you have a perfect opportunity, right, to watch this guy now, you know, really kind of put on the tear and put himself in legacy, right, and put himself in a position where he might be the next, you know, big name that we see. So for me, you know, just talking about Ilia Topuria, right, and that streak that he's been on, you talking about from knocking out Alexander Volkanovski, right, putting the rolls on him. And he called his shot, man, before he did it. He said, bro, I'm going to put him down. And then as well with Max Holloway, right, taking his shot with him. And as well knocking that man out. And, you know, that was the first time Max Holloway ever got knocked out. But he already called his shot. And then you talking about moving up to 155 and saying, like, hey, it wasn't supposed to be you, big fella. Like, I didn't want to do you like this, man. And you already seen him beforehand, right? Having the celebration dinner and already having a victory dinner before he even put Charles down. So once he goes out into that octagon, man, and he does what he does in about, what, 2 minutes flat? Come on, y'all. Y'all got to be like, man, that's crazy. Because you're talking about not only you just knocking these guys out, right? But you knocking out some of the best guys in the world. You talking about former champions or now even just a current champion to this time. We ain't never seen nothing like this. And, you know, we could say, like, oh, we seen something similar when it come to Conor, right? Especially when he knocked out Chad Mendes and then went up to knock out Jose Aldo in 13 seconds. Or when he knocked out Eddie Alvarez. But don't forget, dog. Hey, Diaz kind of took that nigga aura for a little minute once he choked his ass out. We're talking about, nigga, I'm not surprised. So kind of had to come back, right? Get a win, which was a little debatable in itself, right? Talking about, you know, the king is back. And to be honest with you, like that right there, I felt kind of slowed down Conor, but he was able to collapse that and make it even, make people forget by winning that second strap. But with this dude, with Ilia Topuria, man, you know, he not just trying to redo what Conor did, right? Obviously, you see the 2 straps on his shoulder now, but he said he got space for that third one around his waist. I'm like, bro, you got to be playing. Because like I said before, when he was talking to Charles and he was telling him, like, bro, it wasn't supposed to be you. Y'all already know who he was coming after. He wanted Makhachev for sure, right? He wanted to make sure that if he was going to move up to 155, he wanted to fight the pound for pound best guy in there, right? And the dude that was holding that belt and had that pound for pound spot, you know, he went up to 170. And obviously, you know, we have heard little chirps and, you know, little whispers that he might be fighting JDM next, right? It's a great possibility. And y'all already know how I feel. I truly believe that, you know, Islam has all the tools necessary to beat JDM. But with that being said, right, and all these things and scenarios going on, is this a possibility for Topuria to move up and grab a third belt? I don't really see the UFC like allowing him just to go up and be able to challenge for that. I think they're going to make him, fight and defend that 155 belt first, right? See what Islam can do, right? If he's able to grab that title at 170 with JDM. And then obviously then you have Usman right there in the picture as well, right? So it's all about, the timing and everything. And my biggest thing is like, for real, if that all happens and the timing is correct, and if Islam is able to beat JDM, and if Topuria is able to defend his belt, where does that put Usman and where does that put Topuria? Because they're going to allow him to move up after the defense, right? I don't know what you guys want. I don't know what you are excited about, but that's really the debate. Like, which one is the bigger fight? Would it be Islam and Usman, or would it be Islam and Topuria, right? And with Usman trying to fight and get his belt back, right, and reclaim that welterweight GOAT status, and then you have another dude in Topuria that wants to make history by doing something that nobody has ever done before, never even thought about doing, right? And that is getting 3 belts in 3 different divisions. I'm not going to lie to you. I think the UFC going to be looking at that Topuria move. And all respect, right? You got to let Usman go after that title. But like I said, the numbers just got to make sense. And with Topuria being now the most followed athlete in the UFC, right? He didn't surpass Islam in the numbers when it comes to Instagram. You talking about even his viral video after knocking Charles out, right? In 2 days, right? 11 million views, right? And if y'all want to put a side by side, Max Holloway knockout over Justin Gaethje for UFC 300, nigga, that only got 9 million, and that was a year ago, a whole year ago. And in 2 days, my man was able to, surpass those numbers. So you already knowing that Topuria right now is the most watched and most, viewed fighter right now. And I feel like there's a lot of things that a lot of young bucks can learn from Topuria right now, and especially with him being undefeated, right? Especially him being, a champion, and especially him being able to hold 2 titles. It's a beautiful situation for him because he's able to now maximize all this greatness that he has with now opening up a HBO special, right, on HBO Max. And be honest with you, I'm definitely going to be watching, bro, because I really want to see how he was able to do all of this, right? Able to put himself in a position where, not only with the impact of knocking these guys out, right, but being able to brand himself, right? Being able to get these major deals, being able to, show a certain image, like that's one thing that a lot of fighters lack, right, is the image, right? It's the aura, it's the, perception, right, of greatness, right? That's what you need in order to put yourself in a position to be one of the best or get an opportunity, right, to fight one of the best. And for me, there's a lot of things that I feel like could be learned from a dude like Topuria, right? So him having that HBO special, I'm definitely going to be taking some tips, writing some things down because he's doing it. And with all that being said as well, right, if Topuria is able to move up and fight Islam at 170 for the belt, we always talk about, the GOATs, right, of MMA. And, not everybody's opinion is different for sure, right? But I'm always saying these 4 names for sure, right? It's John Jones, George St. Pierre, Demetrius Johnson, and Khabib Nurmagomedov, right? Those are always the 4 names that I usually hear amongst people. And with that being said, out of those 4 names, right? If Topuria does what he does and becomes, and gets 3 straps, right, in 3 different divisions, I truly believe he does put himself in a position to become an all-time great. Who you think he replaced off that mountain? Who y'all think he replaced off of that Mount Rushmore? Who it is? I'm just curious. And then speaking of other, potential superstars in the game, you got a guy named Joshua Van who then fought and has done, an amazing job, right? Being as young as he is, at 23 years old, only been in the UFC for 2 years and already in the #1 contender spot, right? And that stuff didn't come or get handed to him. My man worked for that, right? Every fight, every appearance, right? And every performance, he didn't work his way up. Now, he done took some losses, don't get it twisted, but he didn't allow that to slow him down, and he kept taking on the challenges. And now you see him facing off with Pantoja, right, in the cage, his fist in the air, right, representing Myanmar. And I don't know if you guys know about it, but Myanmar is going through, some rough times right now. So being able to see somebody like that who represents them, right? I guess it will bring some type of encouragement, right? Some type of hope, right? Just to be able to see yourself and an individual like that and doing great things. But this is another guy that become, a massive star overnight if he can, capture that title over Pantoja. And for the longest time, like I said before, right, that's what the UFC's been missing, right? The potential to have these guys, be able to build up a name, right? To be able to put themselves in a position, right, where they want to take the risk, right, in order to, have the biggest reward. And that ain't just money, right? But that's being able to be recognized, right? From all people, right? From all over the world. And the only way that you do that is by putting on excellent performances and always staying active. But with Pantoja, right? Pantoja is the most dominant flyweight champion that we've seen in a long time. And, with himself, right, he's beaten, DJ's record, right, for the most flyweight wins and as well with the most finishes. Now, he's still lacking in the title defenses, but I feel like right now in this era of MMA, it's harder to rack up more title defenses, right, unless you grab it at an early age, and then be able to hold it down until, you enter your prime or starting to get ready to retire. I really feel like, guys in the early days when they fought for a title, it only took them about 5 fights, and then they fought for a title. But now, you seeing guys, they have to go through the gauntlet, right? You got to fight down there, 10 people, and be, undefeated down there in order to see that belt, right? Or to get that chance. So with that being said, it is always going to be, difficult to kind of reach those numbers like my guys did back in the day. But Pantoja still, with his work and his resume that he didn't put on, you still can't deny him. And with a person that he's finna fight again, right, taking on another young, hungry guy and Joshua Van, this is a great opportunity for Pantoja to really show how great he is and really continue down the path that he's on, right, and get the recognition that he's always been looking for. But with that being said, man, if Joshua Van can, be able to get his hand raised over Pantoja, he can, pull that, record out, right, where John Jones was the youngest champion in UFC history. He can take that, right? But shout out to those guys for winning, fight of the night. And, with that being said, it kind of brings me back to a thought that I have. Of course, you guys know that I had my fight of the night as well with Kamaru Usman, right, back when we fought in Atlanta. And you guys already know that, I've spoken about, the tornado relief or the tornado disaster that happened in St. Louis, and me wanting to be able to, give that $50K bonus, to the people out in St. Louis that's been struggling, that's been hurt. And I wanted to hand out that money to, certain organizations where I knew that money was going to be put to a good cause, and make sure that money is spent, wisely and allocated to the places where it needed to go. And with that being said, these places that I've worked with, and the money that I handed out is to Action St. Louis. They've been doing great work within the city and making sure that a lot of people are having the essential things that they need in their house, right? Or finding different services that they might need when it comes to, needing shelter, right? And finding places where, yet again, they don't have much out there. So to Action St. Louis, man, I just want to say thank you guys, for putting in that work, and as well as the Currency of Care with Jonathan. He stays on Natural Bridge, so he's been having food trucks coming out there every single day, feeding people, hot meals, any person that is been not having an opportunity, right, to either be able to cook because they don't have any power at their house, or anybody that just unable to go to the grocery store because there's food deserts out there. Jonathan has opened up these food trucks where people can grab hot meals, and free plates, right, and be able to eat and have something for the next day. And as well, another one, the Little Bits Foundation. I appreciate you guys for letting me come to the school and letting me see what you guys are doing for the kids, because Uncle Buck love the kids, so being able to see all the things that you guys supply for them, whether it's book bags, whether it's clothes, whether it's obviously school supplies and things of that nature. You have a lot of kids that unfortunately have lost their homes and had to relocate to a different place. So Little Bits would get into a position where they call out to the families, man, and they use their records, right, to call up these families and to make sure that their child is able to enroll in different schools and being able to still be educated, right, and still be able to be around a community, be around friends, and be around just yet again, right, the things that matter the most. And with that being said, Little Bits is doing all the work, which is beautiful because that's what we need in this time. And as well, shout out to the food bank, right? The 50th anniversary for the food bank is coming up pretty soon. And, they've been feeding St. Louis for a long time. And, there's so many people that depended on the food bank for the longest time, especially now with this tornado disaster that had happened. But with that being said, we was able to go out there and just see what, the food bank has done for the longest time and continue to do with the food bank, being able to implement this plan with, bringing out food trucks from all different places in the city. It's a real major help to be able to feed families and giving them fresh, healthy options at the end of the day. So with all that being said, every single foundation that I mentioned, they got a portion of my fight purse. And yet again, that was my promise to St. Louis. And this is such a big deal for me because, like I said before, I'm from St. Louis, born and raised, and I felt like it was only necessary for me to be able to give back, right? With all the support that I've been getting from my city and all the love I've been getting, right? For me, just to look idly, right, by as I'm actually, riding by on these streets, man, and I'm seeing people struggling and I'm seeing people hurt, right? Like, I knew that this was a thing that I could do, right? This is something that I could be able to control, right? For me to be able to actually help in a positive way, in a positive manner. But not just only giving money, right? I feel like the most important thing is if you're able to give time, right? And, even if you don't have the necessarily funds, right, to give away, you definitely have time. So with that being said, anybody that's listening to this video, anybody that's from St. Louis, all it takes is 30 minutes, man. You still got a lot of people that are struggling with this tornado disaster. And if you had that time to give up, just take 30 minutes out of your day and go out to Action St. Louis. Go out to the Currency of Care. Go out to Little Bits. Go out to the food bank, and give that time that's necessary because all the help is needed, And what a lot of people don't know what STL stands for, it stands for Show the Love. And that's exactly what every single person from that foundation been doing. So shout out to y'all again, and of course you already know we're gonna be locked in with y'all. Everybody, when they watch a fight, we all know what we want to see. We want to see a knockout. So in today's segment, a bucked up, this is what we got for you. Now, y'all already know we haven't had no fights this past weekend, but the fights that we had on UFC 317 was crazy. A bunch of good finishes, right? And I think y'all already know what knockout I'm talking about. If you say it's this one.
Well, he's already busted up. Oh! Out cold.
A man of his word.
Oh, my goodness.
And
He
now
called
the
it.
new
You wrong. I'm really thinking the KO of the week goes to Gregory Rodriguez. All right, that knockout that he did against Jack Hermanson was nasty, and for real, I ain't never really seen Gregory Rodriguez put nobody to sleep like that ever. And you see his physique, you see how big he is, right? He looked like the real life, you know what I'm saying? Obama out there, you know what I'm saying? Bodybuilder Obama. Not gonna lie to you. But the way that he knocked out Jack Hermanson with that beautiful left hook sent man to the king. It was something of beauty. Now, I ain't gonna lie to you. He ain't had to hit Buddy like that at the end. He ain't had to do dude like that because that shit was crazy. That shit was not necessary, big fella. Like, what that man do to you? I thought you was saved, bro. I thought you believed in the king, bro. Don't you got forgiveness for your mans? But anyways, though, that's the knockout that I feel like was the best one that night. And of course, you gotta have much respect for what Ilya did, you know, but Gregory Rodriguez with that one shot knockout blow, it was too cold. It was too nasty. And you see Gregory Rodriguez, he working on the little boxing. You know, he working on his stand-up. We all know he a jiu-jitsu black belt, you know, world class. But I guess Buddy say he got them hands now. So, hey, I love to see it, you know. But for me, that was the knockout of the week, man. And if you got any suggestions of what the knockout of the week was, or you feel like you know something that was a little bit better than that, go ahead, hit it in the comments. Go ahead, throw it in the DMs, man. And we just might react to it. Let's get it. Speaking about Jake Paul, he is now number 14 in the world and is on his way to fighting for a world title. Who could have seen this coming? Like, this man came out of nowhere, knocking out NBA players, knocking out wrestlers, knocking out our GOATs in MMA. It's just like, who would have thought that Jake Paul would come this far into now being ranked, right? And then also having the ability to fight for a world title. I really do feel as if he can do it, he will do it, and he must do it if he wants these guys to respect him of being an actual legitimate boxer. And I don't know the guy's name. I don't know who it is that, you know, they didn't already matched him up with. But, you know, they talking about he next and he got a belt and Jake Paul gonna fight for it. But I feel like let's not waste no time with all of this. Now, we already know the biggest boxing match that's coming up in this era of boxing, and that is Bud versus Canelo. And those two are definitely gonna get into the ring and make it do what it do. Now, depending, and it actually, to me, it don't matter who wins, right? I feel as if their next fight, you know, could be potentially something massive, something big. And it could be one of their easiest fights they ever had for the biggest check. And y'all know what I'm talking about. Imagine Jake Paul wins a world title. Bud or Canelo, whoever wins. And they make the fight the winner of the Bud and Canelo fight versus Jake Paul. You can't tell me that's not going to do numbers. You can't tell me that ain't going to be massive. Now, some of y'all might be acting like, man, I don't want to see that, bro. All he going to do is get knocked out. But that's all y'all talk about. Like, y'all want to see the man get knocked out. So that's the perfect opportunity, right, to get exactly what you want to watch. And with guys like Bud and guys like Canelo, we know how legit they are. We know how dangerous they are. And for us, we already know, right, that the, let's say, the risk not going to be there. But the reward, massive, right? So there shouldn't be no debate. There shouldn't be no argument, right? Why they wouldn't do it. It'd be just like when Floyd, you know, fought Conor McGregor. Gave Conor McGregor the opportunity when he knew Conor McGregor never even had a boxing bout, right? He was 0-0 on the box rec, right? And they still allowed him to step in the ring with Floyd. And Floyd wasn't like, oh, man, you know what I mean, this going to ruin boxing. And, you know, oh, like, you know, he ain't done enough for me to even step in there with him. Because he said, no, Buddy got the name. Buddy massive enough. He going to promote it enough for both of us. And you going to actually have people believing that this dude actually got a chance, right? Now, I don't think that's the same thing with Jake Paul. But with Jake Paul, he literally believes and undeniable that he can beat Bud or Canelo. He really think he got a chance. And if anybody has shown me with all the confidence that they got in the world that literally is all about what you think and all about what you believe, you know, like, let dude stand on what he's saying. Because at the end of the day, I don't think it's gonna be anybody out there that fights Jake Paul and we not gonna have something to say. I just don't see it. Like, we always going, like, even with Chavez Jr., you know what I'm saying? He was trying to get his last check, you know, in the Jake Paul fight before ICE had to get him, right? He said, man, let me run up this number real quick before they come and deport my ass, right? So it's just like a couple things like that. It's like we always going to have something to say. So with Jake Paul going in and having the opportunity to fight a person like Bud and fight a person like Canelo, I think it'd do massive numbers. I think it'd be one of the biggest fights that boxing can make. And also, right, put boxing back on top if you really feel like these influences taking over. Because you got guys like Charles and White, you know, and the Island Boys, you know. But not just them, right? You got the Paul brothers themselves, right? You got KSI. You got Aaron the Plumber out there. Hey, babe, but respect in a real way because he actually out there, you know, training. But you got guys that come from different places, right? And because they have some type of following, right, and some type of reach, they're able to get put on legit fights, right, and put in place where a lot of boxers have been working for years to get to and sometimes never get the opportunity. So with that being said, I feel like they can end all of this right now by fighting Jake Paul. But in all respect, right, if Jake Paul really go out there and knock out either Canelo or Bud, I know it's not gonna happen. Like, I know it's not gonna happen, but damn, bro, everybody got a punch a chance. And I'm dead serious about this. Like, Jake Paul is definitely gonna change the game and actually be put himself in a position to be one of the greatest himself if he's able to knock out a name like Bud or Canelo. And that's going to be wild. And sometimes, you know, real life can always be stranger than fiction sometimes. But yeah, that's my segment of Buck What You Heard. I appreciate y'all for locking in with your boy. Make sure that you guys hit that bell for notifications. Make sure that you guys subscribe to this channel, you know, and we finna lock and load every single time we come back in. Let's get it.